ladies, congratulations. How does it feel that the film premiered here at the LA Film Festival?
I'll let Hope go first.
I think it's amazing that it's LA, for one thing, because we made it in LA. So that was really nice to kind of see everyone that had worked on it come together and experience it for the first time together. It was so strange, but surreal, but not the film, but just strange experiencing it because, you know, we're watching it, but I'm remembering the experience of filming. It was beautiful. It's so exciting, but I don't know if I'm still not over it. I'm kind of stunned. Yeah. My God, your brain.
I know. I mean, I'll tell you, for me, there's like the producer part of my brain and the director part. And so the producer part of my brain sort of, when I'm not on set, that's what's taking over. And I was like, I've been wanting to get into LA Film Festival since like the spring.
Yeah.
I like would wake up, meditate, write affirmations about like how I'm gonna feel when I'm at LA Film Festival, who I'm gonna tell first when I get into the festival. And so then just like last night was just amazing. My family came, my friends came, like I did 3 crowdfunding campaigns to make this film, and so like just there are all these people that just showed up. We got a standing ovation. It was kind of surreal. Yeah.
No, yeah, it definitely surreal.
Yeah.
That's the word. And I think what was amazing to see is how many people are so invested in it.
Yeah.
They're so invested in, well, not only you as a filmmaker, but just, you know, in the story and the journey of the film. They're like, we've all carried some weight in this, and they just really cared and was so excited. And I think everyone was surprised. No, everyone was very surprised because we were like, oh, what? But then at the same time, at the end, I think what became very clear to me is that I think you have done something that I think breaks convention in a beautiful and very curious way. I think you've made a piece of art. Like you've created, it's not just, oh, here's a film and here's a story. No, you've actually created something that I think is art. It's like, it could be an installation in some ways.
That was the
I could
intention.
actually see that.
Yeah, that was the intention.
Now, this film has been a long journey. I understand it. There was a short film that it was based on.
Yes.
Could you talk about the experiences between then and now?
Yeah, so it was. So I actually wrote the feature first, and then like when I was 25, and then I decided to make a short before I tackled the feature. And so I stalked Hope on Facebook because at the time when we were making the short, the casting director told me, well, I don't know if her agent will let you see her because nobody knew who I was. I hadn't done anything major before. And so I stalked her on Facebook and discovered that my play cousin was very good friends with Hope. And so my cousin Iabo set up a meeting, and we met at UCLA. We met at UCLA.
Yeah.
And then
we had coffee.
And we found, there were just certain similarities. So I'm what you call an adult third culture kid. And I grew up all over the world. I was born in Rome, grew up in Jamaica, Asia, Africa, Europe, and Hope as well.
I was born in the UK, grew up between London and Lagos, lived all over, so many places, have had, when someone says, where are you from? It's a very stressful question.
I know, right? It's like pause.
I don't know. I'm from the airport. What's up with your accent? I don't know what's up with it. It's all over the place. I'm like, I'm sorry. But that whole idea,
And that was important. That was really, like this film, both the feature coming off of the short had just like so many awesome magical things of just like who would have thought that I would have gotten my actress because of somebody's daughter who I was named after. I was named after my cousin's mom, and that's how I found Hope. And like a lot of I think all of the younger actors in the film, Hope who plays Soul, Luke who plays Godado, Chelsea who plays Jasmine, we're all, I don't know, it's like international. Like Luke is from Trinidad and America, Chelsea is Cape Verdean and American, I'm Jamaican and other countries and American, so is Hope, and then we had Lynn and Glenn who are these veteran American actors, and that just meant a lot to me.
The film tackled a lot of different issues. I mean, you're talking about bulimia, you're talking about protesting, you're talking about Christianity and family and so on. Was this all in the short film?
Well, it's actually not bulimia. It's a binge eating disorder. And with eating disorders, there's a spectrum, so people get confused sometimes. Like, sometimes you restrict, sometimes you overeat. Mm-hmm. But the short had the cutting and the eating disorder in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
And there are definitely like queer themes of like
queerness, of like, you know, this sort of fluidity of being a young woman and being, you know, I don't know if I'm attracted to another young woman, or is it that I'm inspired by them. So mm-hmm. it had some of that, but the feature I was able to get deeper and deal with generational stuff and deal with friendships and you know, we were able to get deeper.
What I loved is that everyone was so wonderfully complicated and dealing with too much. Like, you know, because we all have so much going on, and to see how everyone affected each other. And I think that's something that was really compelling for me, is that normally most people were dealing with so much, but we don't realize how the slightest interaction could be really triggering for somebody else, or really mm-hmm. push you, you know, off into a rabbit hole about something else you may not have processed or may not have dealt with in a healthy way. I think that was nice, and also it's a luxury in some ways to watch Black people on screen and have them not just be the Black character. Like mm-hmm. everyone really had nuance and layers, and mm-hmm. their personalities really came out.
Well, I think that's why you have Black filmmakers. Well, mm-hmm. you know, you hope that Black filmmakers center Black people, so that it's not Black folks in reaction to whiteness. Right. It's just us being human. And
very, very human. Yeah.
For you, Hope, what was it, because of the complications of all these different topics, mm-hmm. was it difficult to portray that all on screen?
I don't think that it was difficult, because it's difficult, there are difficult emotions, but for me it wasn't so much about, okay, I've got to tap into all of these issues, but tapping into what was driving Soul, because seeing what's driving her, seeing what, you know, where her pain is coming from, or her inability to cope, that's what's leading her to explore the things that she's exploring, to pursue the things that she's pursuing. It's all rooted in something specific, some specific sort of pain or specific fear. And so it wasn't so much about, oh God, there's all of these things. It's more like, can I understand what's pushing her into all of these things? And that was a discovery in and of itself, because, you know, okay, I'm not dealing with my grief very well, or I'm this idealist who's wanting to change the world and so focused on that, but that's really a coping mechanism for me to not address all these issues. So I'm reaching out into everything possible that will help fuel my desire to hide and not engage. So that made it easier to, you know, understanding the drive made it easier to see why she's doing all of these things, and hopefully convey that, you know?
I think you did.
Yeah.
I think you did a great job.
Oh, thank you. I think you did a great job.
Thank you.
Let's talk about the other castmates, because it seems like every character in the film actually had a direct, how can you say, a directness towards a certain layer of mm-hmm. your character. Mm-hmm. Talk about the rest of the cast on how they had an approach towards Soul.
You know, towards the character or the film? Towards the character. So essentially everybody in the film is trying to cope. And Soul is the central character, so Irene, the grandmother, is trying to cope with like difficult feelings by being controlling of her granddaughter, by trying to mold her granddaughter into the perfect Christian, you know, girl that she could show off to her friends. With Jasmine, you know, Jasmine is trying to cope with her difficult emotions by either, you know, Jasmine does it in a bunch of different ways. Like, it's either by drinking or, you know, or by, like, you know, going into, like, self-harm, or abandoning herself is actually the best way to describe it. And when you abandon yourself, you can do that in many ways. And then Jasmine starts to get interested in Hope's way. Sorry, not Hope's. Oh my God, I keep calling Hope Soul.
It's
and
not
Soul
me.
I know. But essentially all the characters are doing the same thing that Soul is doing, which is using something else to avoid dealing with what's difficult. And Soul's journey and her friendships and relationships with the other characters actually help. They all help each other finally face the thing they're running from.
Yeah, it's a film about friendship.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, definitely. I think something that really, again, the push-pull, how they each affect each other. Something that really stood out to me was just how afraid Jasmine was of being alone and being left alone. That was something that really felt very compelling. And then them being sensitive and aware of each other's issues and also pushing each other's buttons because they were aware of that. Like me knowing that that Jasmine is afraid of being alone and kind of like taking advantage of that in some ways, and her being aware that I have certain insecurities, but like we all kind of, which is what people do.
That's what friends. People who love you know the buttons to push.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's why what makes this a good movie is that it's relatable. Which part is most relatable to you ladies?
I mean, I wrote it, so it's like, and it's so personal. So I think, God, let me let Hope answer that.
I can answer that very easily. For me, I'm growing up. Oh God. Let's not do that.
Okay.
No. Oh God, am I gonna come out as as my I'm spiritually fluid. Hi, Mom. No, I think for me, the thing that I relate to the most is just her idealism, and almost to a fault, because I grew up, I wanted to be Dr. Hope. My name is literally Hope. My blood type is B positive. Like, I grew up wanting to change the world. I still want to change the world. And that, in some ways, I see Soul and I keep saying she's infuriatingly innocent. And I think that's more myself reacting to a reflection that I'm uncomfortable with. And I fully relate to wanting to make the world a better place, but also but at the same time not having difficulty with just being an everyday human being and have, with friendships and how to be social and not awkward and all of those things. I've had to work through a lot of that. I'm still working through a lot of that. And I think understanding that, your activism, your idealistic nature, sometimes people dive into that as a mask. And I think that's just such an interesting thing to me. But yeah, that's the thing that resonates with me the most. And I think that from the response, I think that definitely is something that people connect to as well.
I think especially younger folks. Yeah.
And being overwhelmed by the desire to be an activist or being an idealist, because there are so many things and you don't know, you're pulled in so many different directions, especially these days. There's so much going on every day, and we don't know, it's hard to keep track of the things you're supposed to be angry about.
Yeah. I'll piggyback off of that and just say that, part of what went into writing that specific part of the film was, my father worked for UNICEF, and so I grew up around the world in countries that were developing, right? So I was exposed to a lot of war, poverty, etc. And my heart and my spirit is very much like Soul. I want to make everything better. That's what my dad's job was and my mom's job was, and I couldn't. And you know what? Food is the way. That's what I used to cope when I was growing up. I just would eat and stuff down the feelings of being overwhelmed by the world not being a just and equal place.
Wow. Well, let me start wrapping things up. Can you folks talk to me about any upcoming projects after this?
She's got. I'll let Hope go first, then I'll go.
I have a film, but I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about it yet.
Oh, yeah, probably not.
Well, can I talk about it? Are you cutting things?
No. but you could tell me which category the film is in.
I'm gonna be a part of a drama thriller. Netflix is producing it, and cool actors. I'm really excited. We'll be filming next month. I get to be a grown up.
Yes.
For the first time. This is a milestone for me. I get to finally play an adult. I'm really excited about that. Yeah.
Excellent.
And I'm writing a fantasy film about a fairy, and then also developing a documentary about dance in Jamaica, and hoping that I get the opportunity to direct. I hope there's a book that a Jamaican author wrote that I think is being brought to the screen, and I would just love the opportunity to be one of the directors on it.
Excellent. And one last question. Since Soul basically was trying to figure out herself on what her artistic protest and so on, for yourselves, if there are so many different subjects, what is on the top of the list that we should be protesting about today?
Oh. Jeez.
I know there's a lot of topics.
Wow. I mean, I
don't know for me if it's about protest, but something to consider, which is just, again, in the idea of us, everything's so inflammatory these days, and I think that in some ways it's inhibiting conversation because we are so angry, and rightfully so, about many things, but I feel like if there's a way that we can still feel safe to speak to each other and talk to each other about things, I think that's something that might be missing a little bit because we are just so
divisive.
We're performing indignance, I think, in some ways.
and I feel differently about that. Yeah.
Okay.
But so then I guess I would say for me it would be like we need to protest for human rights because that will really cover everything, right? Like if people have healthcare covered, education covered, if they know their child is safe, then there will be safety for people to talk about what they want to talk about. But unless people have their basic literal human rights covered, you're not safe. And this also comes from, I'm the daughter of a UNICEF representative, where that's the way they approach things, like have mothers and children be taken care of, and then the society is taken care of.
No, yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense because I think that it's too broad to say because there are definitely things that it's a state of emergency, right? So you cannot. It's an emergency, so pausing to say, hey, I don't like how you're speaking to me right now, may not necessarily resonate because it's an emergency. However, I think that I think two things can be true at once.
Yes.
I think we have to find a way to communicate effectively to deal with emergencies, but also in terms of in the long term, be able to have meaningful conversation. Yeah.
Excellent.
Anyway,
excellent. Hey, congratulations once again.
Thank you so much.
It's a very lovely movie. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.